I wasn't certain my mother and I could survive another transgression. She'd just found a half-pound of semi-melted butter stashed under my bed, her nose somehow discerning it from all the other adolescent smells in my fusty room. She'd accused me of stealing it from Sainsbury's, and I had, inspired by a screening of Last Tango in Paris. I'd snuck into the Revival House Theatre in Bridgewater, and after the movie, I'd taken the long bus ride home, transfixed by the young Parisian girl and her clandestine relationship with a much older businessman, eager for violent, buttery sex. At least my mother didn't have the faintest idea about why I'd wanted the butter. While lying on my bed, waiting for the phone to ring, I made a mental list of the bits and bobs I'd recently stolen with my accomplice and best friend, Ernie Castlefrank. 1 Commodore calculator, still in its original package, 2 pairs of aviator sunglasses, like the ones Al Pacino wore in Scarface, countless old Jamaica chocolate bars, and a Swiss Army knife with a corkscrew. My mother would have been frantic about all these thefts, but she would cry in shame to learn I'd defaced a book. Her tears a far worse punishment than a tongue-lashing or a stay-at-home order. She and I lived on our own in a cramped 2-bedroom flat above Alfredo's tailor shop in Norbans Road. Alfredo owned the building, and after my father died a few years ago, my mother had done her best to pay him the rent on time, something that happened a little more often now she had earnings from selling life insurance on commission. Not only was Alfredo unfailingly kind to us both, I appreciated the cloth dummy of a shapely woman he called Lolita that he displayed next to a vintage Singer sewing machine in his shop window to attract customers. He'd recently hired a young seamstress who'd shared several copies of the fabulous furry Freak Brothers comic books with me and Ernie on the sly. Neither of us had the means to achieve the stone state of blissful torpor that was the brothers' mission in life, but on bad days, we both felt just as freakish and at odds with the world. Alfredo mended for us. My mother was not good with a needle, and in exchange for the services of his lightning hands, she baked him apple pies with roasted walnuts from a family recipe that was so covered in grease it was illegible to everyone except her. It's not for nothing that Glastonbury was once called the Isle of Avalon, the Isle of Apples. Mum had grown up in her parents' apple orchard in Hazelbury Plucknet, a stone's throw from the town of Crewkerne, and had gone from high school straight to cookery classes at the Taunt Marie School in Woking, Surrey. That's where she learned to bake, with lemongrass, juniper berries and cardamom, ingredients as foreign as a rouble for anyone else in town. She came alive in the kitchen, chopping raw ginger in her Wallace Simpson apron that said, "You can never be too rich or too thin." She has never been either, and it was doubtful she ever would be. But it didn't stop from her dreaming. On the phone, talking about premiums, she showed only a deathly boredom. Every few weeks or so, she'd lose another client, whereas the pies were fighting for space in the freezer. Her greatest wish, delivered with a punishing frequency, was that I would attend university, and thereby attain the freedom to choose my own destiny. Rarely did she go so far as to explain that she wanted this for me because her own freedom had been truncated by a teenage pregnancy 1 year into her culinary education. Me. She hid many of the details of her chance first meeting with my dad, but I did know I was conceived after 3 sips of Dufftown on a train trip from Woking to Edinburgh, and that my soon-to-be father was fresh from a winning streak at the racecourse in Musselburgh. To avoid a scandal, she was confined to the family orchard for the term of her pregnancy. Likely my grandparents were looking for a way to help her cut ties with a much older gambler. But her passion for the stranger on the train remained undimmed. Quite the opposite. He sent a marriage proposal by telegram, and she accepted.